A viewer sent in a pretty interesting idea that we're going to try out on this Friday. As many of you know, I've gone to so many Trump rallies and Trump speeches to interview Trump supporters, and it's always rather crazy. Now, that hasn't been happening so much recently just because the busyness of the show without trips to go do these sorts of things is enough as is. But this is where I got my start. This was the beginning of it all. So to return to that, we're going to do a segment, again, suggested by a viewer, that's sort of a greatest hits of some of the past interviews over the years. And I will caveat this by saying that we're going to dive into these clips that it was too much to actually go through all of these past interviews or a bunch of them to find the most notable that I could confidently say are the most crazy or something. And so instead I grabbed the ones I sort of could remember off the top of my head, and we'll watch those. If you like this sort of segment, let me know. We can definitely do more and dive into the long lost Google Drive folders. Okay, so we can definitely do more, but for now, here's what we got. Crazy stuff.
We believe it's a witch hunt, but we do believe that President Trump is actually protected under the continuity of government. I believe he's our authentic president and that we are watching a movie.
Oh, really? So he's the current president of the United States?
I believe that.
What is Biden doing then?
Well, Biden is, we're under continuity of government. It's a military action. And so they're showing the people in slow motion, the corruption and all the different elements, all the different agencies and the dual system. So they're saying, okay, if you want to steal the election, which they did, this is what you're going to get.
So then how is Biden doing in his role? Is he the president right now?
No, Biden is an actor, but I think Biden has been gone a long time. That's how I feel.
Gone dead?
Gone dead.
Who's the one walking around?
An actor.
Do we know who the actor is?
There's different ones that play him. Everybody has actors, but I know it sounds so far-fetched, but they say that they're going to reveal it soon, hopefully.
That was a big eye-opener before playing this next one. I think for a long time, it was hard not to get out of the normal political thinking in terms of how I would approach these conversations, right? I thought we were at least having a political discussion, which meant we could talk about policy, we could disagree on different things. I realized long ago now at this point, and that was one of the interviews where it just was like, oh, I need to really keep in mind, this isn't anything like a normal political conversation. I'm not talking about differences of opinions on healthcare or taxes or how we increase wages or the size and involvement of the government in different aspects of our lives or the investments we should or shouldn't make in infrastructure or why we should care about upholding and wanting thriving democratic institutions. This is something very different, and we have to first address, apparently, the belief that Biden's an actor and he's passed away long ago and Trump's controlling everything through the military, but they're doing that to show us what it would have been like, what happens when an election's stolen, which it was stolen, but in a sense it wasn't because Trump's still in control. And that just, I guess to all of you, is an important thing to keep in mind. Don't bring normal political approach to something very different than a normal political conversation.
I know what the truth is, and I believe everything that happened in January the 6th is going to be revealed. Every bit of it.
And I don't know exactly what you're referring to, so what would you say that is? What occurred on January 6th?
I'm talking about Nancy Pelosi, what she instigated, and the information that she's got will be found on her laptop, and that will be, eventually, it will be revealed to the American people.
So Nancy Pelosi instigated January 6th?
I believe she did.
What would be the purpose of them coordinating this? What's the end game there?
The end game is to get Trump out so he doesn't win the presidency.
The actions of January 6th actually interfered with the certification. So doesn't it kind of not make sense that the Democrats would have instigated January 6th if that got in the way of the certification, which they wanted, because that was going to cause Biden to become president?
I just believe that I don't know.
Tell me 3 Democratic policies that you support.
Inflation Reduction Act, American Rescue Plan, the Infrastructure Law, the PACT Act, the Chips and Science Act. I think it's good that Biden pulled out of Afghanistan. I can go on.
No, I get. Wow. Okay, would you like to talk about the pullout of Afghanistan?
Why did you feel bothered that I just listed policies I think are good?
Because
I think it's great that he lowers prescription drug costs.
you don't know enough about those policies.
So one of them in the Inflation Reduction Act is capping the cost of insulin for Medicare recipients at $35 out of pocket per month. And I think that's really good. I don't think seniors should be having themselves price gouged. Now Medicare will negotiate drug prices. I think that's really good because of Joe Biden and Democrats.
I think Joe Biden is an illegitimate president. I think the election was stolen, and I think he's going to be killed for his treason. How about that?
Yeah. And before playing it more, that is one of my favorite, in a sense, the one that I think of often because it embodies the contrast so much, doesn't it? Between the current movement that dominates the right and the current movement that dominates the left politically. Where, with all of its issues, the Democratic Party, the discussions going on over here, often attached to policy. And that's what we want. Conversations about policy. As you saw there, me explaining why I'm very much hoping Joe Biden wins and Democrats win in November because of policies. And then on the other side, resorting to Biden should be killed for treason. And that embodies the policy-free sort of movement that MAGA is. And it's really frightening. And by the way, I'll tell the story again. That individual, I saw him at another event. This happens a lot, by the way. People who go there, which he was one of these people who would go there to sell art or shirts or whatever. And so those people go to a few. So if you interview one of them, then you sort of bump into them at a few different rallies. And he was really unhappy with me when he saw me the second time because that video was probably the most watched interview I've ever done, got so much circulation that he then was getting recognized for being in it and not in a positive way. So that's brutal.
What evidence do you have to bolster the idea that this isn't just a fair prosecution based on violations of the law?
They have no evidence to support it.
The indictments lay
They've been
out.
trying to impeach him so many times, and he doesn't get impeached.
Well, he got impeached, but this isn't impeachment. This is prosecution.
What?
This is unrelated to impeachment. This is a prosecution.
What? It's because they don't want him to win. They know he's going to win again.
But for example,
One of my favorite things is they'll make me speechless often because I'm like, I don't even understand what it is that I'm supposed to be responding to.
classified documents indictment, it lays out violations of the law as being alleged in the indictment. And so you're saying those don't exist, or they don't actually violate the law, or what's going on there?
I don't think they exist.
So like the audio tape of Trump saying that he has a classified document and it's, I could have declassified it, but I can't anymore because I'm no longer president.
That Biden's son's been doing with Ukraine.
Well, there hasn't been evidence to prove that something illegal went on in between Joe Biden and Hunter Biden.
There hasn't, because that's Biden.
But Hunter Biden did something illegal with the gun. He's being prosecuted for it.
Okay.
And what do you think the biggest... All right. Just let me hear it. Yeah, I see. I don't know what was going on with the hair either, okay? I told you, we're doing some deep cuts. Failures of the Biden administration have been.
He said when he was running that he wouldn't defund the police, and he's done that. And I think that's a huge reason why we see so much crime today. I think that
Biden has defunded the police? Where?
well, I mean, he hasn't defunded them, but he's defunded a lot of the police. And
Because that is done on a citywide level, not the national level.
That's true.
Oof. Subjecting myself to that was cruel. I will say, weird flashback. This is strange to see that long ago. I mean, it wasn't even that long ago, but it feels like a long time. And I just want to say, it reminded me to say this. Thank you all so much. Thank you so much for supporting the show, viewing the show. Because I remember how many people watched the show whenever I was doing that interview. And I'm just grateful. Okay? That's all. Here we go.
Would it be a deal breaker for you if someone said, for example, terminate the Constitution?
Absolutely.
Can I read you a message of Trump saying that on True Social? So here's him on True Social. And right there, he says a massive fraud talking about his belief that the election was stolen. Of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. So if that was a deal breaker, then why isn't that something that really makes you question supporting him?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, now you have started me questioning that. I mean, I haven't seen that. Okay. If that was from Donald Trump, President Trump, I'll look into that.
He says,
So to his credit, he's willing to actually potentially reconsider.
execute drug dealers. Is that something you support?
I've never heard that. I've never heard him say that.
But we're going to be asking everyone who sells drugs, gets caught selling drugs, to receive the death penalty for their heinous acts.
I've never heard him say
If he did, would you be supportive of it?
I'm not support. I wouldn't support executing anybody for anything like that at this point. I mean that's a whole different kind of a thing. Yeah, no. I mean, but at the same time, I don't. I believe that we need to do things, that are going to be for America and for Americans, and not against what this administration's been doing.
So some lore on that one, as I've previously said, you saw the guy holding up the sign. That was the guy from the Can You Name 3 Democratic Policies video at a different event. This one was in Anaheim, and he held up a sign that said, "Don't edit it this time." But the video that we showed that he's referencing of that clip wasn't edited, except for this one part where some protesters come in and we have to stop interviewing for a second and then get back to it. The minute or whatever it was is mainly just me listing off things and then him not liking it. How is that wronging you? And I've done the whole rant before, so I won't do it again. But what I've come to realize is when people say that often, because out in the social media world, that does happen a lot. Dishonest, clipping and dishonest editing and all that. But for the types of conversations that I'll have, I'm sorry, it's as bad as it seems. I'm sorry to the Trump supporters in it. And I think it's just sometimes uncomfortable to see yourself within that context, to watch yourself back and be like, wait, that sounds sort of crazy, what? And so then you want to blame someone for it. But funnily enough, after that debacle, we went up to him and talked to him, and he was like, I don't know, you didn't, I guess not, but just was weird. So
he's been indicted for crimes that he didn't commit.
I have to point out, he did surrender technically at the Fulton County Jail, right?
He did abide by the law as required by the law. Yeah, I mean, I think he's setting a good example for our country by doing that.
But then abiding by the law as being interpreted by the prosecutors would mean not doing what he did that they're prosecuting him for, right?
Could you repeat that? There was noise behind it.
I also agree that individuals should abide by the law, and prosecutors are alleging that he broke the law in his actions in relation to trying to overthrow the election and classified documents and some other things.
Yeah, I mean, I think the charges against him are laughable and ridiculous. Why would they have brought these charges against him right in the middle of a campaign? It's election interference. If it was actually anything that had to do with reality, they would have done it long ago.
It takes a while to do an investigation, right?
Well, really? I mean, why would they do it in the middle of an election? That's never happened in our country before.
And we've never had a former president accused of this many crimes. What are your thoughts about the Trump indictment?
It's probably garbage.
Probably garbage?
Yeah.
Did you read it?
No.
Okay. And then what about the audio recording that got released?
Probably garbage.
You didn't listen to it? How would you know
I
it's garbage if you don't even look into it? Some serious things are being accused here.
Like, tell me what it is. Like,
Mishandling and classified documents, holding on to them when he wasn't supposed to have them,
All right.
Violating a subpoena, lying to federal authorities, obstructing an investigation, and conspiring with other staffers to move around documents to keep federal authorities from getting them.
Sounds pretty serious, but doesn't everybody do that?
yeah. So sitting here today, having now traveled the country for these things, gone to places I didn't even know existed, and seen things I wish that I hadn't, heard things especially that I wish that I hadn't. I can tell you sincerely from the bottom of my heart, we're in a tough spot. things are looking down. No, there is a concerning situation on the MAGA front, and that is real. And the more people I've talked to, the more I've been convinced that this is a cult. Okay, so that definitely stands. But also, I'm hopeful. Not related to this subject matter, but just that the rational population is going to prevail in politics and is going to vote out the individuals that many of these voters choose to elect to office. So I guess that's my hopeful note. But I do think some people ask, why do we even talk about people across progressive media? Why do they talk about Trump supporters and do these sorts of segments? I actually do think it's important to shine light on the reality that a lot of people are just in a cult. And that should be a motivator for us to vote and to make sure that we are having our say and our voice heard and having rational elected officials. Because if you stay home, you give more power to whoever that you just heard from. So keep that in mind. Make sure you're subscribed to this YouTube channel. We launched a second channel. Can you imagine? Now, it's specifically for algorithmic reasons for short content. So some short Trump supporter clips. You'll see some of these faces potentially and others, and other short form, quick bite-sized, what did I call it last time? Snack sort of content. Then you can get it there by clicking on screen right there.